Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome inside the Mike Tomlin press conference. It's week number 2 as the Steelers get ready for the New England Patriots in the home opener. I'm Bob Pompiani, soon to be joined by Missy Matthews, and we have a lot to get into today. We welcome all of you watching on Pittsburgh CW and all the Steeler digital platforms. This was a very interesting week 1. We've seen some crazy games between the Steelers and Bengals over the years. This one would be right up near that playoff game in terms of crazy moments. Steelers come away with a very big win for them against a division team on the road. So regardless if it's week 17, week 1, it still counts. And it was a big one for the Steelers. In overtime, they win that game 23-20. But there was some collateral damage there with TJ Watt, with Najee Harris. And certainly those two topics will be a big part of today's Mike Tomlin press conference. The Steelers 1-0 on top of the division now, taking on a New England team that was on the road last week. And they lost at Miami in a final that was 20-7, and New England comes in here in need of a win with Mac Jones in year number 2 at quarterback. He's sustained an injury, but he appears to be ready to go. We'll get all the latest information from Mike Tomlin, who's ready to go with this week's press conference.
Game, it was just a gritty performance, and it's good to see that when you have so many new pieces, whether the guys are new to the National Football League or young in that process or new to us. There's a significant number of those type guys playing roles within our group, and to go into a hostile environment versus a really good team and find a way to get it done. I think there's growth associated with that, and so I'm happy for them and glad that we were able to do what was required to win. After the game, I talked about the turnover component being significant, and obviously it was, but we knew that would be going in. The last several games leading up to this performance had been, negative turnovers from our perspective, and so it was good to flip that, and it positioned us to do what it is that we needed to do. Looking back at it from a coach's lens, taking the emotion out, I was encouraged by some of the things I saw from our offensive unit as well. It's no secret that we're transitioning and gaining cohesion in that group, whether, again, it's young players or players that are new to us. I thought we did some good things considering the variables. I thought we were better than we were in Jacksonville, and this was our second opportunity with this collective to go into a road venue. Obviously, a regular season environment is more intense than the preseason one, and so for us to be better and substantially better, it was encouraging. There was less negativity in terms of negative plays. We were less penalized. We did good things. We took care of the football. We positioned ourselves to make the necessary plays in the weighty moments. The significant guys delivered in those moments. Deontay in possession down football, man, that catch he made on our sideline. What do you say about that? Trubisky with a free down, escaping the rush and moving to his left and putting that ball in the middle of the field to Muth in overtime to position us for Boz to do what he does. It's just a lot of encouraging things. Sure, we're far from perfect in all 3 phases. There's work to do, and we're excited about addressing that as we move forward. We began that process yesterday in a film session evaluating our tape, and it continues today as we formulate our plan based on those experiences. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that as well. New coaches, new significant divisions of labor from a coaching perspective. I just think there's growth associated with being in a regular season in-stadium environment and being in a hotly contested game and communicating and doing the things you need to do when it gets really thick. It's growth for all of us there, and hopefully it's a catalyst for us as we plan and prepare to move forward. I know it's going to be required. It always is in this game at this level. From a health perspective, man, I'll start with Watt. I know there's been a lot of speculation about that. Let me say this, man, we're probably in a lot better place than we were after the game, and usually that's the case, and that's why I don't always say too much after a game, even though there might be speculation out there. I can definitively say that TJ won't play this week, but I won't make any commitments beyond that. We're encouraged, and we'll just continue to look at the situation and gain opinions and do what's appropriate. We're going to do what's appropriate, as we always do, whether it's him or others, from a health perspective. It's going to be a cast of characters, obviously, to fill his role. Malik, Jameer being the lead candidates. But when you lose a guy like him, it's not about the guys that occupy his position of left outside linebacker. It's about how we redistribute our responsibilities collectively to produce the collective outcome that we desire. Those guys are not going to be TJ. It's not realistic to think that they're going to be TJ. But we expect them to be varsity, and we're going to formulate a plan and redistribute responsibilities to lean on our strengths, to minimize our weaknesses like we always do each and every week. And so we're excited about doing that with them and getting this group ready to play this week. Mason Cole had an ankle injury. I think it may, change his process throughout this week and from a preparedness standpoint, but we expect him to be available. Naj is really optimistic. It's good to be young, He appears to be in position, but he's going to have to practice and improve his readiness. That's just my perspective. He's a talented guy, but he's a young guy. And so I'm going to want to see some work from him. We'll take him day by day and see where that leads us in terms of his participation and the quality of that participation. As always, man, we'll simply do what's right for him and for us. The other injuries in game could probably be described as bumps and bruises, if you will. It may affect them during the course of preparation, but we don't expect any of those others to limit us in any way in terms of dividing the labor up as we lean in on the weekend. Now let's talk New England. Obviously got a lot of respect for Coach Belichick, man, and company, their mode of operation, how they do business. They're a transitional group as well, like us. It's been a number of years since we've been in the stadium against them, and as you put the tape on, you see that. Significant players in all three phases and coaches as well. But I know their core values will remain the same. I think if you're playing a New England team, they'll always have a high floor. They won't beat themselves. They won't be highly penalized. They'll play the field positioning game. They'll work to win the weighty moments. They'll fight for every blade of grass and goal line and short yardage and things of that nature. They'll do things to dress up their high-volume stuff on offense and defense in an effort to search for a winning edge from a game planning perspective. They play a really good matchup game. An example, I'm watching their tape. They've always got a lockdown match corner, if you will. Over the years, in recent years, it's been Gilmore, and then it was J.C. Jackson, and now it's Jones. And I think that's what you get when you get continuity in a program, if you will. The names may change, but the roles and how they go about business, their mode of operation very much remains the same. I turned on the tape from last week. I see 31 tracking number 10 for Miami, very much in the ways like the number one corners from New England usually do. On offense, I see Mac Jones very much in command of the offense, doing a great job of communicating, changing things, getting them in a premium look, and doing so in a hostile environment in week one on the road in Miami. And so New England is New England. Some of the names and faces may change. Ty Montgomery's a third down back. It used to be James White. Before that, it was Kevin Falk. I love and respect the defined division of labor and the mode of operation in terms of how they function. We function in similar ways here, and so it's cool. It should make for a really interesting game. It'll be two trains on the track. And that's what football is about, man. We're in the National Football League. It's the fall, and I'm honored and humbled to be a part of it. And we'll work this week in that spirit and ready ourselves for a big-time matchup this weekend here in Pittsburgh. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Coach, regarding TJ Watt, you say you don't want to go beyond this week, but you say that the organization is encouraged. Does that suggest that you're not looking at the worst-case scenario of being lost for the season?
That does suggest that, yes.
Mike, is IR still a consideration for TJ?
We got time to make decisions such as that. IR decisions that have to be made by the end of the week relative to this game being a counter. And so, we got time there. We're not in a hurry to gather information too quickly. We'll see how his body responds. we'll get second and third opinions, and at the end of the week or at some point we'll do what's appropriate.
Anticipate bringing in outside help depending on TJ's long-term availability?
At the very least, we need outside help for practice, and I think maybe we've worked some people out already today in that vein, but whether or not it leads to participation remains to be seen.
Mike, can you definitively say that surgery has been ruled out?
I can't definitively say anything when we're pursuing second and third opinions.
Might you have to protect TJ from TJ wanting to get back out there and do it?
Hey, that's an honor to do it. You know, I mean, I'd rather say woe than sick 'em. What are we talking about? We're talking about protecting a highly competitive, talented guy. You know, that's the job. So I'm not going to act like that's a problem.
Mike, what did you see in Jameer that made you guys want to bring him back?
We had a good experience with him last time. You got to make decisions week in and week out in an effort to field the very best group for that specific task. And sometimes young guys and guys on the fringe, if you will, get lost in the shuffle. Somebody claimed them, and we had to move on, and we had an opportunity to reconnect. And usually, you guys know us, man, we'll do repeat business if it's a good relationship. And so he's one of those guys. He's back here for a second time, and usually they're back here for a second time because they have some things that we value, not only in terms of talent, but approach to business that are in line with our mantra.
Mike, with Najee, did he re-aggravate the injury from training camp? Or
No, he did not.
Same foot or different?
I really don't know, to be honest with you. I know that we're in an encouraging place, and he's going to participate, and his level and quality of participation is going to be our guide, and so there's probably not much to write about.
Because with the Bengals holding a huge gap in time of possession and players ran from scrimmage, did the offense fade, or does the defense fade? Do the offense just have to pick it up in terms of time of possession?
When you get pick sixes and stuff like that, you're going to play more snaps on defense. You know, it's just you're on the field for a possession, you pick it and score, you're back out on the field for another possession. They were 50% on third down. They did a really good job of moving the sticks on possession downs. And so there's a myriad of reasons why the numbers are, as you mentioned, and I really don't overanalyze it from that perspective in the effort to comb through and find some particular storyline.
Mike, other than a big run, maybe or two early, what did you like about your run defense, especially in the second half?
You can't take out the things that it is that you mentioned, and so that's the position that I'll maintain. We got some work to do there, and we got some work to do there this week, man. New England's one of them groups, man. They always got a real steady run game. It doesn't get a lot of attention because they do it with multiple backs and things of that nature, but we're not asleep at the wheel. We know we better bring our A game from a run defense standpoint playing these dudes, and that's just the truth.
Apologize. Mike, is it a matter of course to get second and third opinions on this injury? I mean, Steph had the injury in 19, Cam had it in 16, or was this a little murkier than those?
You know more than I do if you know his injuries are just like those others that you mentioned.
Mike, you mentioned being encouraged about the offense. What will it take to get more downfield throwing, or was that something that you purposely kind of stepped away from because you had the big early lead?
With downfield throwing comes the potential of negativity and turning the ball over. And environmentally and the structure of how they function, we did what we thought was appropriate to win the game last week. It has no bearing on how we're going to function this week.
Mike, you mentioned how Mitch, stepped up in the free play. I also saw the play where there was a bad snap and he kept it alive, and also a play where he was in his own end zone and he kept the play alive. How much of that comes from his veteran experience and what you saw of him show off?
I think it's beyond experience. I think it's pedigree. He's an athletic guy, and that's one of the things that was attractive to us in him back in the spring.
Like, what were you able to see from Highsmith that made him so effective, and do you expect him to get more attention now with TJ?
I just think it's a natural maturation process that he's going through. We drafted him in the third round out of Charlotte. He showed us some things that he was able to carve out a role for himself in his rookie year and be a third outside linebacker and even play in some packages. We created some packages to be inclusive with him. His second year, he moves into a starting role and does an admirable job there, a varsity job there. And so I just think it's reasonable to expect he's going to continue to improve in the ways that he's done that since he's been here. And so I don't know that any of us are shocked by the performance. As a matter of fact, I think most of us expect it to continue. You're not going to get 3 sacks each and every week, but he's a good player and he's a man to be reckoned with for sure.
Malik Reed may not be as tall as like Bud or TJ Watt, but you had Harrison here who wasn't as tall as those guys. Use leverage really well. Is that what Malik does well at that position too? Does he have?
I'm not going to compare him to James Harrison. I'm not going to let you take me down that road.
Position. Is that how you get around it?
Yeah, but I'm not going to compare him to James Harrison. I'm not going to let you take me down that road, man. Malik is a 700-plus snap defender the last 2 years. His resume speaks for itself. That's why we went out and acquired him. He's a very, very credible NFL player, and we expect him to play varsity ball for us.
Mike, when it comes to TJ, how do you put into words the tangible impact he has on the defense as a leader?
I don't. He doesn't need any endorsement from me. It's TJ Watt. His hardware and resume speaks for itself.
Mike, you always talk about taking care of the football. Mitch hasn't turned the ball over in 4 games. What is that? It's experience, decision-making. What is it about him that he's
It's probably all the above and then some. I mean, let's be honest here, man. I'm getting to know Mitch. And so, I think anytime he and I step into a stadium, I come out of the stadium with a deeper, more understanding of what he is and who he is as a man and a player. And it's a process, and I don't resist that process, but I don't take it for granted at the same time either. And so we're learning and growing, and so it's reasonable to expect him to be better, for me to be better with him, for us to be better with each and every passing day, and particularly those days inside stadiums.
Would it be natural then to expect Alex to get the attention that TJ normally draws?
I'm not in New England. I'm not formulating New England's plan, and so maybe you guys should ask Bill.
It seemed like Minka was taking more of a vocal. It seemed like Minka was taking more of a vocal step up as on top of his play as well. Have you seen him speak more as a leader this year?
That's always been Mink, but you can write that story. He's vocal. He's intense. He is a big-time player, and he has been since the day we acquired him on a short week going into San Francisco. He was vocal that week.
In that same vein, what kind of leader is Minka? Do you expect him to take that step up with TJ not on the field?
I don't think we're devoid of leadership. I'm just going to ask guys to be themselves, and I'll take an additional play or two. I think that's going to be needed.
Mike, you mentioned the improvements with the offense, specifically with the offensive line. What have you seen? What kind of steps have you seen forward?
Again, like I mentioned, we were in an environment where communication was a challenge, snap counts and things that aid offensive line cohesion and play, and we had less negativity than we did the last time. And so that's something to build upon without getting too specific.
You did see Jalen Warren in his first game action. Just what did you like about him, and is he ready for an expanded role if he has to take one?
He didn't urinate down his leg, man. That's a great place to begin, And that's capable of happening for a young guy. And so, but I think that's been indicative of him throughout this process, and that's why he's gone from being an undrafted guy to a guy that's carving a role out for himself, because at no step in team development did he show that circumstances were too big for him. He was competitive, and he's been competitive, and he was on Sunday. And so good for him and good for us.
Okay, can you put into words how difficult it might be for your secondary? That all 4 guys had 100 snaps, still have 3 turnovers or 3 interceptions, to be able to do that in that situation, playing so many in week 1?
You don't want to, but you better be prepared in case you have to. And that's why we have creeds that we live by, like physical conditioning precedes anything else, and that we'll be continually pouring into that component of readiness, because from time to time you got to do what they did.
Were there any of those individuals to that might have risen up in your eyes that came on that maybe wouldn't have played had it not been for close to 100 snaps?
You talking about specifically in the secondary?
Yeah, the defense in general.
No, I think from a divisional labor standpoint, it unfolded in game the way we prepared during the course of the week, and so we anticipated kind of the divisional labor and the contributions that we got from those involved. Week 1, you're going to play a lot of people. Whether you're playing 100 snaps or 65 snaps, it's just football.
Mike, is there a common thread among those UDFA guys that sort of allow them to create niches for themselves when they get a bit overlooked throughout the draft process?
They're football players. I think sometimes you can get caught up in measurable things, height, weight, speed, and things of that nature. But I'm never surprised to see unbelievable football character from those guys that make it. It's probably usually some intangible quality, some commitment to the game, some will-related thing that's difficult to measure. But when you're around it, you see it and you feel it, and so you acknowledge it. It might hurt them on draft weekend, but once you get them in a team development-like setting and you subscribe to the things that we subscribe to, we don't care about what means you got here, then it's an opportunity for them.
Offensive line getting better in your eyes, what you saw on film?
Again, I've said that repeatedly. There's less negativity than it was in Jacksonville. We got hats on hats. We were less penalized. There was a lot of things to be positive about if you're looking to be.
What have you seen from Arthur Millette as he gets more time in that slot role?
He's getting more comfortable in his shoes, and I think that's displayed by the extent in which he communicates. He's a good tackler. He's a good blitzer. He does the things that we need that position to do, and that's why we were interested in him. But I think in year two, I just feel more fluid communication from him, and I think that's helpful to him, and I think it's helpful to those around him. Communication is a big component of interior positions because you got people in front of you, people behind you, and so it's big. He's linebacker, like in his position from a communication perspective.
You talked about you liked the above the neck approach from your cornerback room going into the first game, and you had multiple interceptions from the group, and Cam Sutton peeling off his guy for a big breakup in the end zone. What was your assessment of how they took on a challenge with a talented receiver? I
think their performance speaks for itself. They made the plays, and they made the plays from start to finish. They were highly competitive versus a really good quarterback and a quality, well-rounded group of eligibles, and that's football. We're going to be in them circumstances, and they better load it up and be ready to deliver again.
Mike, did Devin Bush take a big step forward based on his play Sunday?
I wouldn't call it a big step. I'd imagine you guys would, because that was the narrative you guys were singing, but he did what we expected him to do, which is play winning varsity football.
Your team has had to deal with what Cincinnati had to deal with, losing a long snapper in game before. Has there ever been conversation about allowing like a backup, an emergency guy to dress, maybe carry an extra guy who has that skill set?
Rest assured that the conversation has been had and there are procedural things in place, but I'm not going to outline them in this setting.
For so many years, when you guys would play the Patriots, there was so much focus on Ben Roethlisberger versus Tom Brady in this matchup. What excites you about the next chapter?
That might have been your collective focus, but it wasn't ours. Like I've mentioned, they have a mode of operation. They attack you in all three phases. They play stingy defense. They keep the point totals down. They play great in situations. They win possession downs. They play the field position game and special teams. Matt Slater is a legendary special teams player. I used to say legendary of this generation. I no longer include of this generation. He's just a legendary special teams player. And so I'd be disrespectful to those two phases if I allowed that to be the narrative within our ranks in preparation for this game. And so that has never been the case for us.
Coach, your thoughts on Arthur Millette on Sunday and his performance, including his splash play in overtime?
Boy, I thought he was engaged and into it. He always is. I thought a step that he took, if you're looking for a step, I just thought he was a better, cleaner communicator. But I think that's a reasonable expectation as he's in year two within our system of football. He's just talking more openly and freely, and that leads to better understanding and faster, solid collective play when we're all really sure.
Anyone else? All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right, there you have it. Another Mike Tomlin press conference. Joined now by Missy Matthews, and the big question was injuries. At least it seems a little bit more optimistic than I think what people saw on Sunday when TJ came off and said, I tore my pec.
Right. Coach Tomlin only definitively saying, Bob, that they're going to rule him out for this weekend, week 2, when the New England Patriots come here. But said they are in a better place than they were following the game in Cincinnati. He was asked some follow-ups, of course, are you ruling out surgery? And he said anytime you're seeking a second or third opinion, you can't rule that out. So I do think at least we are going to have to wait as we get through the week and maybe learn some more information about that. But in terms of Najee Harris, the other big one, the player not able to finish the game on Sunday in Cincinnati, the good news there is that he is optimistic, that being Najee, according to Coach Tomlin. He's a young guy, so he's going to have to prove in practice that he's ready to go.
He almost looked like he was challenging him. on that press. Like, I'm going to challenge that young man. And you feel good? Let's see how you do this week. You got to prove it to me. We'll see. But they got a good performance out of Jaylen Warren, which led to an interesting quote by Mike Tomlin.
Your favorite
My
one, right?
favorite one, right. He didn't urinate down his leg. That's a sign of progress. But I think if you look at Jaylen Warren, the thing about him is that he took on some blockers and he laid them out, or some tacklers, and he laid them out. I thought that was impressive for a young guy in this game. But again, he's faced so much adversity in his entire career that he's probably used to having to do all the things necessary to keep an opportunity alive for him.
Yeah, and on that 26-yard pass from Mitch Trubisky to Pat Freiermuth, he really helped on that play to open things up as well. So we will have to see, as Coach said, participation will be our guide. He didn't actually say that, but that's essentially what he meant in terms of Najee Harris. Also, some other guys who dealt with injuries. He's considering bumps and bruises. That would be Levi Wallace. He left the game with an ankle injury. Rob Spillane with an eye injury. And then Coach did also mention Mason Cole also dealing with an ankle injury, but that will probably affect his practice, but he thinks he'll be ready to go for Sunday.
Yeah, when he went down, that was like, oh, hold your breath, the starting center. But he got up and played, and that's good news for that. We have a lot more coming up. We're going to talk about Mike Tomlin's comments about the offensive line, Mitch Trubisky, Devin Bush, and many more things. It's all coming at you live right here, Pittsburgh CW and the Steeler digital platforms. Don't go away. Our analysis continues right after this.
This place is juiced up.
Obviously, the win is a great feeling, but TJ comes off the field hurt. He seems to say that it's pretty significant. I mean, what does he mean to this team, and what's the feeling when you see a guy, your teammate, someone that means so much to this team, go down like that?
I'm not going to speculate what's going on with how bad the injury is, but having TJ out there definitely benefits us. He's a leader. He's the defensive player of the year. However long it takes, other guys got to step up. So, Alex stepped up pretty good today. Malik and Jameer are coming along. We had to do some different stuff out there, but, we rally around him. And when he gets back, we'll be ready.
Man, a lot of critical calls didn't go your way, a lot of injuries. Was there some reason it stayed together? Did somebody rally the troops, or did it just kind of happen organically?
On defense, especially, Mike T doesn't give us a chance to really even think about that. If you've been at one of our practices, the defense doesn't get a damn call to save their life. So, it's nothing new. We expect it. You're in a hostile environment. We don't play for the calls. We play through them. But, that's the ebb and flow of a game. You're not going to get every single call. But how you battle back. And we needed 60-plus to get this done.
Yeah, Minka sets his tone early, and then, of course, he allows you to win the game with that blocked field goal. What's it to say about him, the impact he has on his football team?
Minka is a complete player. A lot of people sleep on Mink and what he's capable of doing, whether it's being a box safety or being a ball hawk or even blocking kicks. Me and TJ were joking with him. We were like, you don't have a block kick, so I don't know why you like to talk about how you're this speed demon, because last year it didn't count. But, he got one today. He joined the club. And Minka's a leader. He's a leader in that secondary. I thought our secondary was all over the field today, picking off balls, challenging that great wide receiver core. And we were able to get the W today.
By the time this Steelers fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15.
I know there's been a lot of speculation about that. Let me say this, man, we're probably in a lot better place than we were after the game, and usually that's the case, and that's why I don't always say too much after a game, even though there might be speculation out there. I can definitively say that TJ won't play this week, but I won't make any commitments beyond that.
So that will mean you're going to see a lot of Malik Reed, who was brought over from Denver. He's not in an unusual spot because they had injuries in Denver. It was Von Miller, Chubb got injured. He was a guy, and he played a lot, and he played pretty well. So I would imagine he would be one of those guys get action. Jameer Jones, we saw him in the preseason here last year, and he was good. Got an opportunity in Jacksonville, released. They brought him right back here. So it's going to take more than just one or two guys here to fill those shoes. But it's interesting that he didn't go beyond this week, and I think but it's optimistic. That's also good news because I think most people thought it'd be season ending. Later, when asked about that, Missy, he didn't rule out anything beyond this week. So it's hard to know.
Yeah, I think Coach Tomlin's very good about knowing what he says carries weight and doesn't want people interpreting what he's saying. So if you don't have all the facts, maybe play it safe. Just say exactly what you know. He's definitely not playing on Sunday. I don't think we needed him to say that. I think everybody knew that. But going back to Malik Reed, he played 2 seasons in Denver, 26 starts, 13 sacks among those 2 seasons. So this is nothing new to him. Obviously, without TJ Watt, there's a lot more pressure on that entire group, the entire defense as well, because it's not just going to be the outside linebackers. You're going to need, as Coach joked, later in his press conference, Minkah might need to make another play. Not that I don't know how much more you could ask of Minkah, but everyone on the defense is going to have to step up when you lose a guy like TJ Watt.
I thought it was interesting also, he was asked about, how do you stop TJ from being TJ and protecting TJ from TJ, and I'd rather say whoa instead of sick him. So he's going to have to, TJ Watt is a guy who wants to play through everything. But you got to be cautious with these kinds of injuries, especially if it doesn't need surgery, because then rest would be a big thing for a pectoral injury.
Right, and I think maybe one of the silver linings is Alex Highsmith's performance in Cincinnati. Of course, TJ Watt was opposite of him for most of that, but the 3 sacks, dealing with a rib injury throughout training camp and not playing in the preseason, to be able to do that week 1 and have that confidence, the spin move that we saw from him, there's a lot of excitement, I think, as he takes another step into year 3.
No question about it, and you can bet that New England's going to try to concentrate on him after that line he put together, because that line is worthy of Defensive Player of the Week. We'll see who gets it. They have a lot of candidates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, he was asked also about would TJ Watt get on IR. Let's roll some of that sound.
Week relative to this game being a counter, and so we got time there. We're not in a hurry to gather information too quickly. We'll see how his body responds. We'll get second and third opinions, and at the end of the week or at some point we'll do what's appropriate.
Mike, can you definitively say that surgery
So
has
the
been
follow-up question is, can you definitively say he doesn't need surgery? And the thing about that is you don't know. That's why he's getting a second and third opinion. Also, Missy, I think it's important to note that while I think you're inclined to think, he's going after second and third opinions, that means he doesn't like the original. It was also part of the collective bargaining agreement between players and owners. Players wanted to have the ability to go and seek second opinions. So that's not necessarily unusual.
Well, and I think everybody knows TJ Watt, just his work ethic, his drive, his love for football. He's going to do everything he can to get back to the football field as fast and hopefully as safely as possible. So why not just see if there's something else out there, or maybe a different opinion, and who knows, doctors can work together and figure it out. But hopefully we see him on the field at some point this season sooner rather than later.
The other interesting thing is his brother JJ had this surgery, and he returned from it, I think, a lot quicker than people thought. So everyone's different in this regard, but I think he's probably going to lean on his brother and maybe his brother's doctor to try to get information about this as well.
Right. Cam Hayward, who dealt with a pec injury, was asked about it yesterday in the Steelers locker room, and he said when he woke up the next day, he didn't know right away what it was. It was black and blue. Well, turns out his completely ripped off the bone. So you don't know. As you said, it sounded like TJ might have thought that's what it was as soon as it happened, but until they do more MRIs and test and, again, seek those other opinions, we're not going to know for sure.
But the thing about Cam, too, if memory serves me here, his was later in the season.
It was about November, I think.
Right. So that obviously meant with surgery, there's no way he's coming back. This, if there's a good thing about it, happened in week 1. So, I mean, we've seen situations like this in Pittsburgh with Rod Woodson. They kept the light on for him, and he came back and performed. So, who knows? The thing is, they have a schedule that is in their, I think, favor early on. If they get to the middle of it and he's back by then, that could be a plus.
Right, and the Steelers aren't the only team dealing with these types of injuries or length of injuries following week 1. Just look at the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott. They're debating putting him on IR, not putting him on IR. So it's not just the Steelers. Unfortunately, that's the game of football. But hopefully for TJ's case, we'll hear best case scenario.
Yeah, the good thing about this defense, they have a lot of people playing well. Going back to the game, I thought that was one of the better defensive performances under Mike Tomlin. When you take the ball away 5 times, and you remember last year he was moaning about the fact that the difference in that 2-game sweep by Cincinnati was the fact that they turned the ball over 5 times in those 2 games, the Steelers. They've been very good about protecting the football and doing work like this.
Well, and I think, taking care of the football has been preached, not that it isn't all the time. We've heard Coach Tomlin say that so many times during his press conferences, throughout training camp and the preseason, even when it comes to the Steelers offense, a group that, as he said, is starting to get cohesion. And it's no secret that they are transitioning. It's a new quarterback, a new offensive line. There's a lot of moving parts. So for them to only have Mitch Trubisky sacked once is probably a good thing. It's an improvement from the game that we saw in Jacksonville, especially when it comes to penalties as well.
One of the interesting components of watching Cincinnati, and for that matter the Rams, there's all this strategy or belief that what should you do in the preseason? Should you play players? Cincinnati's offensive line, like the Steelers, a lot of new guys. The Steelers chose to play a lot of theirs in the preseason. Cincinnati did not. And based on the performance, it looks like they may have needed the work.
Craig Wolfley, who is, old school football, he was preaching from the second that we walked into Paycor Stadium on Sunday. Hey, none of these guys played in the preseason.
Right.
What is going to happen today, especially as you mentioned after the Thursday game, and as the game went on, he just kept bringing it up and bringing it up. Who knows, is that what happened? But definitely Joe Burrow's worst game that he's probably had in his career. I'm sure they do not want a repeat of even half of what happened in that game in terms of their offense that went to the Super Bowl last year and is so high-powered.
It is high-powered, and they showed you glimpses of that, even though they were sloppy, and the Steelers forced that sloppiness. When we come back, we're going to talk about Alex Highsmith, his role now moving forward, also the latest on Najee Harris. So don't go away. You're watching it right here on the Mike Tomlin Press Conference, brought to you by PNC.
Could your favorite casino app be even better and faster than ever? You bet. Because the all-new BetParks app has been built around what you really want. With easier sign-up, faster withdrawals, and all the slots and table games you love. Plus, make your first deposit and get a 100% bonus match up to $750. And 500 free spins. So, are all of your favorite games just a tap away? You bet. BetParks.
Mitch, I was going to ask you, what did you find out? What did you learn? You only had, I think, 4 first downs in the second half, but you got it done.
For sure, we battled. I mean, we made the plays when we needed to on offense, and the defense absolutely balled today with those turnovers. So we just got to go back to the drawing board, do our part, but we win and lose as a team together, and today we found a way to win.
So looking at the time of possession, it was pretty unbalanced. I think they had the ball for 45 minutes. I mean, what do you guys need to do to sustain and prolong some of those drives?
Yeah, staying on the field, be better on third down, definitely. Getting the run game going a little bit, me connecting more with the receivers on deep to intermediate routes, and just continue to be aggressive. So we're just going to go back to the film, look at it, and specifically on third down. And then when we get those turnovers, we got to turn them into touchdowns, not just settle for field goals. So lots to correct and get better from, but it's always better after a win.
Did you get the ball back with maybe 90 seconds left in overtime? What was the conversation before that? Was it like, we're going to play it safe, let's go for it? What was it? Because it was.
We were playing to win. Yeah, we were playing to win. It was like, hey, we got another chance. Let's go make the most of it. And me being smart, I just want to I'm taking care of the football, but we're also trying to win. Didn't want it to end in a tie, or I wasn't really thinking about that. Just protecting the football, but also. We want to go down and win, and it really all kind of started with that big chunk play to Pat on that scramble, and Boz did a great job kicking it through, and special teams did an awesome job finishing off the field goal.
I'm sorry, Mike Tomlin said he gave you a game ball all the first times, including yourself, because you didn't blink. What's that mean to you?
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, he's giving it to all the first year new to the team guys, so either free agents or rookies new to the team. It was a really cool gesture. I mean, especially for the young guys and guys new to this team, there's going to be a lot of crazy games like that. Maybe not like that specifically, the ups and downs, but it's important that we stick together and we just find a way at the end of the day.
As a Main Street bank, PNC has helped over 7 million kids develop their passion for learning through our Grow Up Great initiative. And now, we're providing billions of dollars for affordable home lending programs, as part of $88 billion to support underserved communities, including loans for small businesses and low and moderate income areas. So everyone has a chance to move forward financially. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you.
I just think it's a natural maturation process that he's going through. We drafted him in the third round out of Charlotte. He showed us some things that he was able to carve out a role for himself in his rookie year and be a third outside linebacker and even play in some packages. We created some packages to be inclusive with him. His second year, he moves into a starting role and does an admirable job there, a varsity job there. And so I just think it's reasonable to expect he's going to continue to improve in the ways that he's done that since he's been here. And so I don't know that any of us are shocked by the performance. As a matter of fact, I think most of us expect it to continue. You're not going to get 3 sacks each and every week, but he's a good player, and he's a man to be reckoned with for sure.
Mike Tomlin on Alex Highsmith, and what a job he did with 3 sacks, as he mentioned, but also 2 tackles for losses, 4 quarterback hits. I mean, he was owning. Forced fumble. He had all the things that you would look for in a month, and he did it in one game, basically.
Well, it's funny, going back to this past offseason, I had a chance to chat with Alex Highsmith, and he was mad at himself for not hitting double-digit sacks in 2021. That was one of his goals. 3 right now. I don't want to, I don't want to have to knock on wood here, but I think it's safe to say he might finally reach that milestone. And it's clearly not just about personal goals, but the Steelers are known for, having the NFL sack record year after year. It's at least 4 in a row right now.
I think it's 5, or is it 4? Going to be 5, yeah.
They're going to possibly break the record this year. Not that we need to, go down that route, because there are bigger fish to fry in terms of injuries and just getting guys healthy, but just the performance by Alex and just the entire front of the defense. They took so much heat last year. Tyson Alualu finally able to come back. You could tell how excited he was to be able to play football again with those guys alongside Cam Hayward, the addition of Larry Ogunjobi, who used to play for the Bengals, who has, witnessed what happened to the Steelers defense last year. So I think those guys definitely are a formidable group. And as Cam Hayward put it best yesterday in the locker room, hey, our group started with a sack and we ended the game with a sack. Like, what more do you want me to say?
There's no question. You see that little spin move that Highsmith did to get a sack. I mean, he's showing a lot of different things, a lot of tools in that toolbox. And I think the more he plays and the more he has success, the more of that kind of stuff you're going to see. He's very quick off the football. And I think that's a good point you mentioned, Missy, about the defensive line. Last year, without some of those key contributors, it left Cam Hayward on an island by himself. And now the guys they drafted, like Loudermilk, Leal, I thought played pretty well for a rookie. Those guys are depth guys, and then you have your Ogunjobis along with Alualu and Hayward. I think that makes life easier, and I think that's why we saw Devin Bush play a lot better in this game.
Yeah, Coach was asked about Devin Bush today during his press conference, and he said that Devin played winning varsity football. I think he was very physical in that game. That's definitely something that you could take away from his performance, not being afraid to thump somebody and to put his head into a pile. So that was also good to see. Very good to see. And this defense, take pride in turning the ball over. They did that a few years ago, and I think specifically Minkah Fitzpatrick. Last year we didn't see too much, but I also, in terms of turnovers, I think his role was muted a bit because of all the injuries up front and the fact that he was having to tackle people, 5-8 yards as the play unraveled. And so now I look at him and I think he's a guy that can move around a lot of different spots. And I also think Terrell Edmonds has played very well in the preseason. And in this game, he complements him. Kind of an underrated signing to bring him back at $2 million. Right. He tested the free market as he should have, but decided to come back. Loves playing with Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Minkah feels the same way about him as well. I think also having a new defensive coordinator, not that Terrell Austin was new to the Steelers, but in a new role, you bring in Brian Flores. You have a lot of defensive-minded guys, and I really liked what they were able to do with the Steelers defense on Sunday, again against the Bengals. You were not expecting them to be able to do so much damage against that offense. Of course, it is week 1, and as we have said, they did not play a lot in the preseason, but that was still a good sign, a way to start the year. It reminded me of Buffalo week 1 last year, where everybody counted out the Steelers, and look what happened again week 1 this year. And the line was almost identical at 6.5 points. And the Steelers, maybe they like that role. The underdog role. But I think Brian Flores, his fingerprints were all over this game as well. And it will be interesting this week because he's going against the team that he spent a lot of time with in New England. And so he knows those guys very well. I'm sure that'll be a resource for Mike Tomlin. We'll take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to focus on the offense a little bit because Mike Tomlin talked about what he's thought of the offensive line, Mitch Trubisky specifically in overtime. All of that sort of stuff is coming up as we continue live right here on Pittsburgh CW and the Steeler digital platforms. This is the Tomlin Tuesday press conference every Tuesday right here at noon.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located on the North Shore. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be a part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the legendary shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
Did you think you had it on the previous kick?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, is always to have it, and it just, didn't go in my favor, and I'm fortunate to have another chance.
Do you have to make any adjustments for the second kick or go out there?
No, just same ball, same kick, same routine, same everything, and one goes in and one doesn't, and that's just life.
What does it say about the team's ability to kind of weather the storm that you guys did today and to come out here against the defending AFC champs with a win?
Yeah, no, it says a lot about the team and the heart that they have, and the young guys, coming up in big moments, and just the team leading us down to get in scoring position again. And I give all the credit to them and everything that they do.
Did you think you would get another shot?
I wish I did. I hoped I did, and thank God that I did. And yeah, that's it.
Chris, do you think you're the edge of the B, the paint on the missed one? Does that have anything to do with it even second?
No, not at all. It's just unfortunate that it hit the post and I missed, and then it's just on to the next kick.
How much were you aware of the Bengals' issues that they were having on special teams when their long snapper went down? Was that something you guys were talking about?
We saw him kind of, in pain across the field, but we didn't know what extent, anything, if he was going to try to gut it out, for one. And then they run out there for that PAT, and that's the first time we saw, what they were having to deal with. And, hopefully we don't ever get in that position either. It's unfortunate.
Between those kicks that you get another chance, when you come off the field, do you say anything jokingly to yourself, like, if you give me one more shot, I'll do this? Or...
No, I always want one more shot. It's just a matter if I get another shot. Most of the time in that situation, you miss the first one, you don't get another one. And, just fortunate enough that the team let us right back down, and we got another one, and it went in.
The fact that you had plenty of leg on the first one that hit the upright, did that give you confidence in the second one?
Yeah, I knew I had plenty of leg. It was just a matter of me hitting a clean ball, and the first one probably wasn't as clean. It was a little wobbly, ugly ball, and the second one was a really clean ball.
You know when you hit it, it was going in?
I knew as soon as I hit it and I looked up and saw it was dead straight that it wasn't moving.
Welcome back to Ford Truck Talk. Today we're looking at the new F-150.
The official truck of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow, did you see that lane change?
Another smooth play by the F-150 with great execution of that parallel park job.
Absolutely stunning.
Newcomers, take note.
And now you too can win this Ford F-150.
Professional, show-stopping, built Ford tough, but we shouldn't expect anything else.
I think anytime he and I step into a stadium, I come out of the stadium with a deeper, more understanding of what he is and who he is as a man and a player, and it's a process, and I don't resist that process, but I don't take it for granted at the same time either. And so we're learning and growing, and so it's reasonable to expect him to be better, for me to be better with him, for us to be better. With each and every passing day, and particularly those days inside stadiums.
That's Mike Tomlin on Mitch Trubisky. After the game, he said he didn't blink, and I think that's part of why the Steelers were attracted to him as a free agent, because he's been through a lot of this in what now is his 6th year in the NFL. And the thing about him, he hasn't made a mistake in terms of turnovers in 4 games that he's played, counting preseason.
Right, and even just the free play to Freiermuth that we already talked about, having that awareness. He didn't see the flag, but said post-game that he had a feeling and knew, take a chance, get the ball down the field, and that obviously worked out for the Steelers to be able to give Boz a second chance in overtime to win it.
Yeah, that's a play that a lot of people say, well, it's a free play. But, he could have done a lot of different things. He was aware of it, number one. But number two, he had to roll to his left, set himself, throw back, and put it right on the money. That's a high-quality throw at a very critical time of the game.
And I think, we're just seeing that relationship between him and Pat Freiermuth developing, something that we did see in training camp in the preseason. Ben really relied on Freiermuth last year as well when he was a rookie. And you'd love to see Zach Gentry as well, somebody who he changed his body last year, worked on the pass catching this past offseason, and we saw 2 big plays from him on Sunday.
I like screenplays. Well-developed, well-executed screenplays. You get a guy like that rolling down the field, 6'8", he's going to run over people.
Yeah, I don't want to stop him.
No, I think if you're a defensive back, you go low and hope you don't get hurt. But, the thing about the offensive line, it's been much maligned. because it's been rather inconsistent. But Mike Tomlin pretty much was encouraged by the steps they took. It wasn't perfect. They didn't run the ball successfully enough, and I think they're going to have to do that. But ultimately, they allowed only 1 sack in this game. And if you had told me that at the beginning of the game, because Cincinnati has a very active defense up front.
Yeah, and I think, it's going to be baby steps with not just the offensive line, with the offense as a whole because of so many new moving parts. But as you said, the run game, most of those yards coming from Chase Claypool on jet sweeps and more of the trickery plays. It's definitely something, obviously, we don't know if Najee Harris is going to be able to go or not for Sunday, even though he is optimistic. I think, for Jaylen Warren, whoever is in there, they have to commit to running the ball a little bit more, especially with the time of possession. You have to feel for the Steelers defense. They were on the field for 43 minutes, 43 seconds, almost 100 plays. They needed to have a little bit more of a breather. Overtime changes things a lot, but even before that, the time of possession was so unbalanced.
Tomlin, to quote him, says less negativity with the offensive line. And it's a low bar for now, I suppose, but I mean, that's a step forward if you're going to look at it. The other thing that was a little surprising to me is that Kendrick Green didn't dress in this game. And I didn't know if there was an injury at first, but he came into this basically as an oar at that left guard position with Kevin Dotson, but Dotson obviously has taken over.
Well, I think, especially with the interior guys, J.C. Hassenauer, somebody who we have seen a lot in the past filling in for the Steelers offensive line, it was a good thing he was active. When you lose your center, need him to step in right away. So I think it's almost a numbers game in terms of the offensive line, and who knows with Mason Cole what will happen this week if they're not 100% sure if they might need somebody to step in again if something else would happen to that ankle.
We just saw that catch by Deontay Johnson on the sidelines. I think you could put that up right now for catch of the year in week 1, at least for now.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a better catch than that one. The toe tap with the one-hand grab, that's pretty impressive.
And Deontay totally downplayed it in the locker room after the game. He said equipment manager Lou Blades challenged him, hey, somebody needs to make a play, go get a ball. And he was like, I thought, okay, why not me? And, I think that one deserved a little bit more high praise from him. But I'll take Deontay being humble and, putting his head down and continuing to work and to prove why he got that contract.
One guy who I'm sure he wants to see the ball more is George Pickens. He had a very active preseason. And again, maybe the way this game unfolded, the opportunities weren't there. I know, looking at some of the tape, that he was open a couple of times. He's a young man. He's going to get those opportunities. But I would expect this week to see more of them against New England.
I think everybody got spoiled through training camp in the preseason, just the big plays, the ridiculous catches, having that body and being able to use it is something that would bode well as they're continuing to build on things with this offense. And he's definitely one of those playmakers that I think we'll hopefully see on Sunday.
Well, the last time the Steelers saw New England, it was a totally different team. Of course, Tom Brady was still there, and what was the final?
33-3. It was at Gillette
in 2019. You might remember that game. So this is a new beginning. We'll talk about New England coming to town with a new quarterback, a whole roster full of Joneses. There's like 4 Joneses on it. Did you notice that?
I saw that, yes.
Okay, Mike Tomlin talks about we don't worry about the Joneses. You're going to have to this week. There are 4 of them on New England's roster. We'll be back with that right after this.
Game starts at 20, bet slip is empty. I gotta call KG.
KG, what up? I got nothing for you, Fox. Oh, come on. Jalen. You want to tell?
Yeah.
Don't call somebody on live TV.
Well, you answered. I have other friends anyway.
Marshawn, Barry.
Listen, I need some tips.
I like L.A.
L.A.?
No, Dallas. That's
Dallas.
Dallas not
Dallas?
the best. We gotta get to Miami. How about Detroit? Nah, Barry over there.
You know what? I'm gonna call y'all right back. Vanessa.
I got a tip for you. Always go with your gut.
I like that. Let's go with our gut.
I think it's definitely one of the ones, wildest ones I've been a part of, at least in my time here. But that's just the resilience of this team, just weathering the storm, not giving up on the brothers and not in the situations in the game, and just engineering victory, coming together, not dwelling on, plays and mistakes and things that weren't going our way, obviously in the first half, second half, and going into overtime. And just keep finding ways to get out the field and keep giving the offense ball, keep moving the ball down the field. And, we played together today. We played really well together today, bringing it all together. So it's a great win for us, great team win.
Defense really set the tone.
On their shoulder coming into this one?
I think so. Just going into the year, high energy, flying around. The love for this game, the love for our brothers. We're just willing and ready to show it. So week in, week out. We prepare well. We're ready to play for each other and keep putting our best foot forward. So that's a great start for us, but it's not the end, and it's just that. It's just a start.
Speaking of the start, it seemed like Minka's interception really set the tone for the way this game was going to go, especially the way you guys played on defense.
Yeah, again, just speaking of resilience and just making plays on the ball. That's something that we prep ourselves and just part of our game. Finding the ball in the air, making plays, being opportunistic, and then creating havoc and scoring for ourselves. Not just putting it on the offense to put up points or special teams. Obviously, when we create those turnovers, either getting them in good field position or getting the end zone ourselves. So we were able to do that there. That gave us a lot of energy, momentum throughout the course of the game, and we just finished well.
If you look at the stat sheet, you guys have +5 on turnovers. Usually a team would run away with that, but as Minka told us, it's the NFL. You know what can happen.
Yeah, for sure. You only control what you control. That's the ebb and flow of the game. The up and down. Good things like that happen. You get turnovers, you get the ball back, field position, and that's just the battle of the game. So we just did a great job of just getting off the field in the situations we needed to. I'm not sure what we were on third down right now, but that was a big thing for us, obviously, too. Not giving a lot of times to look at to be on the field, keep the chain moving, as well as keep their rhythm going. So just doing a really good job of getting off the field, creating turnovers. It was a really good job for us today, and just looking to keep carrying that over.
For over 30 years, Steelers Digest has been delivering black and gold news to your doorstep. Photography, game recaps, opinion, and statistics presented in a colorful, easy-to-read format. Don't miss another issue. Subscribe today at Steelers-Digest.com.
It'll be two trains on the track. And that's what football is about, man. We're in the National Football League. It's the fall, and I'm honored and humbled to be a part of it. And we'll work this week in that spirit and ready ourselves for a big-time matchup.
Two trains on a track. Room for only one. Who's going to be there at the end? The Steelers hope they are. New England's coming off a loss, Missy, down in Miami. That seems to happen a lot for them down there, regardless of Brady or no Brady. And this was, a new beginning for Miami, and they won the game. So New England doesn't want to go 0-2 in this division, especially with Buffalo in it. What do you expect from this game and Mac Jones?
Well, I think in terms of Mac Jones, you're going to have to watch the injury report in New England as well. He hurt his back in that game. It seemed to be, I think it was a roughing the passer play is what he said sandwiched. Was the one. Yeah, high and low. He said it was back spasms, hopefully nothing that will keep him out of the game, but I still think that's something to monitor as well as we go through. So, again, not just the Steelers dealing with injuries, that is their starting quarterback, so we'll have to see. A
lot of injuries in week one around the NFL. So we'll keep an eye on, and you should watch for the injury report coming out on Wednesday this week. Najee Harris, Mike Tomlin says he's going to see what he has to offer, and if he shows that he's ready, he'll be in there, and that's going to fall on him to do it. That's going to do it, Missy. This was fun, and
all right.
Always is. So look forward to a big game this week against New England. You'll see it on KDK. We have the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show Saturday night, 11:35. Missy and I will be there for that. We thank you for joining us today on Pittsburgh CW and all the Steelers digital platforms, and we'll see you again next week as the Steelers would then prepare for the Cleveland Browns on a Thursday. Have a good day, everyone. We'll see you next week.